Am I purchasing this item because I like it? Or am I purchasing this item because of the way it'll make me look to the world? At ease. It's your boy Soul Immortal. The other day I was watching YouTube videos, right? And I came across this video of this brother, and I didn't even know the brother had a YouTube channel. Matter of fact, the only time I'd ever seen his face was on ads, just before a video came on that I selected, right? So the title of this man's video was, "Why as a Millionaire I Own Nothing." Now, within a few minutes of watching the video, I could already tell where the brother was going with it because it was very similar to a road that I had traveled just a few years ago, right? So I made a comment. I said something like, I know this is going to be one of the best videos of 2019. And shortly after that, a brother commented on it. I'm assuming he's a subscriber of this channel. And he says that he would like for me to give my point of view on it. So brothers, we can talk about relationships. We can talk about increasing our finances. But there's nothing that gives me more pleasure than talking about a man coming into his awareness. So today, guys, I want to talk about one of the effects of waking up. Let's talk about it. So the brother, whose name is Alex Becker, he starts his video off saying, I got rid of my house, I got rid of the Lambo, I got rid of all these things. And he says, the only thing that I have in my life right now is this desk, this computer, and a bed. And instantly, like I said a second ago, I could identify with him. Because years ago, I traveled the same path. And you've heard me tell the story several times, so I won't bore you with that. But in a nutshell, around 37 years old, I became, aware of the power that I had to create, right? And I saw myself in the ideal position. I saw myself living in a high-rise Dallas. I saw myself pushing a large foreign whip. I just imagined this life that I lived. 3 years later, at 40 years old, I was having this epic birthday party. Life from the outside looking in couldn't get any better. But one night I'm sitting at home, just a day or two after my birthday, and I realized, man, that out of all these things I accumulated, the money that I had in the bank, the cars I had down in the parking garage, man, that was the most emptiest feeling I'd ever felt. And after that feeling, the thing that I wanted more than anything was understanding. You know what I'm saying? Now, as I began to seek knowledge, two things happened. First off, I became disgusted with myself, right? And second, I became even more disgusted with the worldly possessions that I'd obtained, right? So the first thing I did was just like this brother. I just started getting rid of everything. Selling cars, selling jewelry, moved from downtown Dallas out to Frisco, where I live now. In a nutshell, I just became a financial minimalist. So after taking close to a year, off from the world, in other words, no social media, a lot of this part in time is when I went monk mode, I didn't really go out. During this time, I came to a few conclusions. And one of these conclusions was that, as a person's awareness heightens, right? They become detached to many things, many worldly possessions of this world, right? Now, am I saying that, once a person is quote unquote woke, they can't have nice things? Not at all. And I'll get to that in a second. But I came to that conclusion that as a person gets more enlightened, that they just have a disgust for several worldly things, right? And there was two instances that even heightened these conclusions. I had time. There was a time in my life where I spent time with two people while they were pretty much on their deathbed. Now we all know that meditation is the cousin to sleep, and sleep is the sister to death. So when a person's near death, they're at their most heightened awareness, right? The most heightened awareness. So this one person who I most definitely, wouldn't name, but a person that was very dear to me. They were about 72 hours away from crossing over, and I'm at their home, and and they're kind of in and out of it at this point. They can barely get around, so I'm helping. I'm pretty much just picking them up, moving them around, and they were just like, "Where am I at?" Because they were in and out of it. They was like, "Where am I at?" I said, "You're in this big beautiful home you have, like this massive crib you got. That's where you are." I said, "Want me walk you around and show it to you?" And the person was like, "No, they were just like, no, please don't." It got to the point with all the energy they had, all they could do was cover their face. They was like, "No, don't show it to me." And they just started crying, right? And at the time, I couldn't understand that. I thought that maybe it was just, stages of them crossing over. And there was another instance, some years ago when I was in the military. A friend, very good friend of mine, old school cat, he'd gotten sick. He was passing away. He had surgery first. He had surgery, and before the surgery, the brother said, "If anything happens, make sure my wife and kids." He had several cars, a couple of boats, 4-wheelers, jet skis. The boy had every toy you can name. He said, "Man, just make sure everything is taken care of, man. Make sure the boys, the whole spiel." I said, "Brother, I got you. Like, on my life, I got you." He had his surgery, things looked good, and all of a sudden, he starts snowballing. He only had a few days left to live, and me and him are in the same room, one-on-one conversation. And I said, "Brother, he had accepted what was going on." I said, "Brother, I got you. Don't worry about nothing." And all of a sudden, the brother just started shaking his head. He started shaking his head, and he just started crying. And with the little energy he had, he said, "Tell them to sell everything." And again, I was like, I couldn't understand, because I'm like, man, this brother had just had this conversation. Now, brothers, I'm not saying that having nice things is a bad thing. But what I'm saying is these things can easily turn into a prison. There was a quote by Jim Carrey, and it says, "I hope everybody could get rich and famous and will have everything they ever dreamed of, so they will know that it's not the answer." Now, I've never had even a fraction of the money that Jim Carrey has, or Alex Becker, but I have made enough money to get lost in it. And I'm telling you, brother, when we get to accumulating all these things, it's easy to just give up our freedom. And this is what I mean, because it really doesn't come down to if a person can afford some things or not, because sometimes we get things that we can afford, but it's robbing us on the backside. It's robbing us of our spiritual freedom. You know what I'm saying? Because when you get a thing and it's based on being validated, it's based on impressing a group of people, it's based on creating an illusion of your pseudo lifestyle, brother, it is robbing you of your spiritual energy. It's robbing you of your ability to express yourself in other ways. There are people who get jobs, right? You get a job, it's the perfect hours, the perfect schedule. You like the people you work with, more money than your last job. They'll get this job, and a year later, you'll hear them saying, "Oh, I can't stand this job. I hate it." In a lot of situations, what has happened is, this person got this new job, they got this increase, they created this life around that new money, new car, bigger apartment, and now this place that they were going to day in and day out that they used to love, now they hate it. Now, it's not that anything changed at the job, it's that now, instead of them, having financial freedom and going to this job because it was something they like doing, now they're a prisoner. Now they have to go, because now they have to afford these things that they bought to impress these people. At some point, we're going to have to come to the understanding that, the accumulation of things, despite them being fun, despite it being exciting, is really just robbing us of what true happiness is. And in my opinion, true happiness is peace and life experiences. I've never heard of a person being on their deathbed saying, oh, I wish I would have bought that Lambo, or oh, I wish I would have, bought this item. It's more about, man, I wish I would have approached that woman. I wish I would have hiked that mountain. I wish I'd have jumped out of that plane. I've learned a long time ago that the accumulation of things, is fun in the moment. It's exciting to get new things. But brother, it's nothing compared to life experiences. Those are much more fulfilling. Those are things that will stay with you, until you die. I'd much rather watch the sunset in South Africa. I'd much rather, walk around and climb the pyramids. I'd much rather, talk with the elders on the streets of Cairo than obtain a series of things any day.
لا مرة كنا بنعمل حجة انا ومراتي وبعدين كانوا محلوطين الحتة بتاع الاتوبيسات ومراتي.
Now, going back to the question we talked about earlier, does having things in this world, is that a bad thing? And the answer is no. But this is the thing that every single person must do. Every single person must run every single purchase through a filter. And that filter is this. Am I buying this item because I genuinely like it? Or am I buying this item because of the way that the world may view me in it? See, the trap is not in the thing itself, but the purpose behind obtaining the thing. You know what I'm saying? You can go drop $500,000 on a crib. You can go drop $200,000 on a car. If you got that thing just because you genuinely wanted it, then it doesn't rob you of your power. Again, everybody has to run something through a filter. If you're buying a house, you have to ask yourself, if no one knows where I stay at, if no one ever comes to visit me, do I still want to buy that house? If I'm gonna go drop 150, 200 on a car, if no one ever knows I have this car, if no one ever sees me turning blocks, would I still get it? See, we have to ask ourselves why we're getting these things. And the thing is, we're seeing everybody on Instagram, we're seeing everybody on Facebook, and we're trying to keep up. But I'm telling you, having these things is not happiness. It's not happiness.
At ease.
And then we have to ask ourselves, why is it that we can't let go of some of these things? You know what I'm saying? Why is it that we can't get rid of the things that are weighing us down, the cars, the homes? Why can't we get out of the relationships that are no good for us? Why can't we walk away from the job that's working us 80 hours a week but wanting to pay us minimum wage? Why can't we walk away from some of these things? And the thing is, most of us are concerned about what other people are going to think about us. Most of us are so concerned about how the world views us that we much rather remain attached to things that are weighing us down. Just the other day, yesterday actually,